Hi guys, welcome to Techie DIY. In today's video I'm going to look at a camera kit which I'm going to install for one of my elderly neighbours to give them some extra security. The kit is made by Hiseeu. It consists of a network video recorder or NVR, 4 5MP IP cameras, 4 Ethernet cables, a power supply, a mouse, a remote control, some instructions, an HDMI cable, mounting screws and templates, and some stickers. The NVR is quite compact. Those are the dimensions. There are some navigation buttons on the front. On the back we have a power switch, power connector, audio output jack, VGA and HDMI output ports which can be used concurrently, 2 USB ports, one for the mouse and one for a USB stick or a backup drive, an earth point, 8 POE Ethernet ports for the cameras, another Ethernet port to connect the NVR to a local network. This is used so that the security system can be accessed remotely from a PC or a phone app. The NVR doesn't come with a hard drive. It can be used without one, but only for real-time viewing. I'm going to install a Western Digital 2TB purple drive, which is specifically made for continuous use in security systems. The NVR and cameras are powered by a power supply with 110 or 240 volt AC mains input and a 52 volt 2.5 amp DC output. The mains lead was supplied with a European Schuko plug and 4 UK power adapters. The mouse plugs into one of the USB ports. It's a bit lightweight, but it works okay. In this case I'm going to replace it with a wireless mouse. The cameras have a 5MP resolution, which is 2592 by 1944 pixels, and it has a 4:3 aspect ratio. Communication to the NVR is via TCP/IP. It uses H.265 compression. The cameras are powered by Power over Ethernet or POE, which basically means that both power and data are supplied over one cable. They can also be powered directly from the DC power socket. The camera mounting plate has 4 screw holes for attaching it to a surface, and the camera articulates and swivels, giving a pretty decent range of mounting options. Finally, the RJ45 Ethernet sockets and cables have a gasket sealed cover for keeping the weather out. First, let's have a look inside the NVR and then we can install the hard disk. There are 4 screws holding on the cover, 2 on the sides, 2 on the back. The cover slides off. There are a couple of PCBs inside. The first has the VGA, HDMI, USB and SATA hard disk connectors, also a battery for the real-time clock. The heart of the NVR is an HI3536 SoC. It contains 2 ARM Cortex processors, a GPU and multiple interfaces. The datasheet gives an overview of how many cameras it can support. The second chip on the PCB is 2 gigabits of memory. The third contains 100 base T Ethernet transformers. On the second PCB we have more 100 base T transformers, 1000 base T transformers and multi-port Ethernet switch controllers. The case has mounting holes for 2.5 and 3.5 inch discs. Mounting screws are supplied with the kit. The power connector and SATA connector are plugged in. And the cover is reinstalled. Next, a monitor is connected to the NVR using a VGA cable. I'm also connecting an HDMI cable which will be used to record the NVR using a video capture device. The mouse is connected to a USB port. Power supply is plugged in, as well as the 4 Ethernet cables. The other end of the Ethernet cables are connected to the cameras. I've temporarily installed the cameras outside while I test the system. And this is the setup with the laptop ready to capture the video from the NVR. Next, the NVR is turned on. The hard disk automatically formats. Now we can proceed with the startup wizard, log in with admin and no password. We're then asked to change the password. And add some recovery questions. The time and data set. For the moment we're going to skip the network test and skip installing the mobile app. The NVR then searches for the cameras, and it finds cameras with IP addresses 192.168.1.11, 12, 13 and 14. To access the menus, right-click the mouse, select Main Menu with a left click. The channel titles can be configured by selecting System, Display, Channel Title Set, the monitor display resolution can also be set. Now let's have a look at the operation of the NVR. Right-clicking the mouse brings up the menu. We can select a single camera view, 4 cameras, or 9. We can show the face detection screen. Left-clicking selects a single camera view. We can select an area of the screen by holding down the left mouse button, and then left-clicking inside the area to zoom. A double left-click returns the screen to normal. Moving the mouse to the left-hand edge shows the channels. Moving it to the bottom edge shows some buttons, where we can select the number of cameras displayed, navigate to different camera views, record all cameras, stop, and enter the Intelligent Alert menu, which we'll take a closer look at shortly. Moving the mouse pointer to the top of the display shows a QR code, which is used to download the app. Clicking the Settings button in the top right of each camera screen brings up the IP channel configuration screen. Now let's look at the recording settings. Right-click into the menu. Record mode shows the current recording status for each channel. Schedule means recording according to the configuration. Manual starts recording regardless of the configuration, and stop stops recording regardless of the configuration. Right-click, Main Menu, Record Conf. For each channel we can select Redundancy, which writes video files to 2 hard disks. Length sets the maximum time length of each video file. Mode, schedule manual and stop are as before. We can schedule individual days or the whole week. Each day has 4 time periods, and for each period we can choose Regular, which records the whole time period, Detect, where recording is triggered by motion detection, and Alarm is used to enable an external alarm output, which is not available on this NVR model. Motion detection can be found under Alarm Intelligent Alert. Each channel can be configured for motion detection, human detection and face detection. Record and mobile alerts can be enabled for human detection and face detection. Under Human Detection Advanced, the motion detection time interval and the post-event recording length can be set. The time periods can be configured. TOR is for pan, tilt, zoom cameras, which we don't have. Show message, the buzzer sounds an alert. Upload the video to an FTP server. Take a snapshot photo, send an email alert, and write to the log file. Under Face Detection Advanced, there are the same options. Under Rule Set, we can set a boundary around a detection area. And also enable visible traces and rules on the video. The human detection only takes place within the boundary. If human detection and face detection are disabled, then motion detection can be enabled. The detection area is selected under Region Set. The red colour indicates that the motion detection is enabled for that area. Video blind is triggered by environmental factors like excessive brightness and can be used to initiate recording and snapshots of other channels, send an email, alert to a mobile, etc. The same options for video signal loss, external alarm input for IP cameras, abnormal system events such as storage problems, network disconnects, and IP address conflicts. And intelligent is for configuring external alarms, which we don't have on this model. Under Advanced, Hard Disk Info, we can format and partition the disk. Redundant is for a second hard disk. Output Adjust has some monitor parameters. Auto Maintain lets us set a day and time to automatically reboot the NVR, and we can also automatically delete files after a set time period. Under Restore, we can reset the configuration values back to default. Upgrade. Import/export log files and configuration files to a USB storage device. View the log. BPS, data stream in kilobits per second and disk usage in megabytes per hour. And version information, including the QR codes for the app. Under System, General, we can change the machine name, also the language, video standard, what happens when the storage is full, whether to auto log out, and whether to display the startup wizard. Encode, set the video and audio encoding parameters. The maximum camera resolution is 5 megapixels, and the maximum frame rate is 21 frames per second. Backup, this lets you save video files from the NVR to a USB memory stick or storage device. File types are R for regular recording and M for motion detect. Snapshot Conf, this lets you take snapshots and send them by email or FTP. Display, we can set the channel titles, what is displayed on screen, and the display resolution. Account, here we can add, delete and modify users, groups and passwords. Digital has various information about the channels. IPC param lets you configure the IP camera parameters. The NVR and cameras have fixed IP addresses. Before we plug them into our home network, we should check to see if they're using a compatible IP address range and also whether the IP addresses clash with existing devices. One way of finding out is to use a Windows PC connected to the network, open the command prompt, run ipconfig. This will give us the IP address, subnet mask and default gateway for the adapter connected to the network. Normally, the IP address will fall within one of the private IP address ranges. To work out the range of addresses that can be used on the network, we can use an online calculator. Enter the subnet mask and the IP address, and the calculator will then give us the usable host IP address range. If the NVR and camera IP addresses fall within the usable IP address range, then we should check whether they are already used by existing devices on the network. To do this, we can ping each IP address. If we get a reply, then the IP address is in use. If we get host unreachable, then it's probably not in use. We can also see if any of the IP addresses are in use by using the arp-a command. Armed with this knowledge, we can then decide whether we need to change the IP addresses. The IP address for the NVR can be changed by selecting the main menu and network. We can set a fixed IP address, or select DHCP, which asks a DHCP server on our network to assign the address automatically. Now we can connect the NVR to the network, and if we go back into the network menu, then we can see that the IP address has been changed. To change the IP address of a camera, we need to connect a Windows PC to the same network. If the cameras have unused compatible IP addresses, then we can connect the NVR to the network and use a PC on the network. If not, then we'll need to connect a PC directly to the NVR and change its IP address to fall within the same IP address range as the cameras. To access the cameras, run Internet Explorer from Search. If Internet Explorer is not installed, then you will need to add it in Settings, Optional Features. Enter the IP address of the camera, download and install the program. Then refresh the web page. Log in with admin and no password. Select the device config menu. Select System and Network. Then you can select a fixed IP address or DHCP. Next we're going to add a password. Select the Advanced menu and Account. enter a password, it also asks for some recovery questions. Reboot the camera for the changes to take effect. Now we can check it by entering the new IP address into the browser. It now requires a password, and it's been assigned a new IP address. Now we have to update the camera details in the NVR. Right click for the menus, quick set, it scans for the cameras, and then we can update the camera password. For security purposes, we should add passwords to all of the cameras. We can access the NVR from a PC on the local network by entering its IP address into Internet Explorer. It has similar options to those on the NVR. We're able to select different screens, zoom, and from the device config menu you can configure the NVR. The QR code on the top of the NVR is used to download the mobile app. Then register for an account. A verification code is sent by email. Choose a username and password. Next we need the serial number QR code. It's shown in the Startup Wizard. Log into the account, add a new device, press the camera scan icon, and scan the serial number QR code with the camera, the device links, and we can scroll through the different camera views. We can take a video, a snapshot, and configure the NVR. The menus are very similar to those on the NVR. We can configure the alarms, human and face detection, change the password, encode configuration, record configuration, mirror the image, view a recorded video, video download, storage configuration, network settings, and information about the NVR hardware and software. We can select a widescreen view and pinch to zoom. To see how good the Hiseeu cameras are, I've set one up next to a Panasonic bridge camera. The bridge camera can film in 1080p and take 5MP photos. This is the Hiseeu 5MP video versus the Panasonic 5MP photo. The Hiseeu versus the Panasonic 1080p video. And then I've cropped both by the same amount to see them zoomed in. The night vision on the cameras works pretty well. I've been testing them for a couple of months and they've worked perfectly despite rain, fog and freezing conditions. The kit is good value, the hard disk wasn't included, but even so I couldn't find anything cheaper. The instructions are quite limited and the menus are a bit confusing, but the default configuration works straight out of the box. The human detection and face detection work well, they really cut down on false alerts. Having to use Internet Explorer and ActiveX to configure the cameras from a PC is pretty annoying. I decided to buy another kit to use in my workshop and this has allowed me to test the NVR with 8 cameras plugged in, which works fine. It might need an upgraded power adapter if it was permanent. The NVR also works well with widescreen and square monitors, and it's actually quite a good use of old square monitors. Overall it gets a thumbs up from me. It's just a shame they didn't include a decent user manual. If you're interested, the link is in the description. Thanks for watching and see you again next time.